Hi, I'm Steve, and welcome back to the Shoebill studio. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Crossfire Pack expansion for Zombicide White Death. Now, this expansion is not Kickstarter exclusive. It should be retailly available. You can find it online. You don't need to rely on sort of the secondary market. And this expansion brings two new elements, the Deadbolt Walkers and the Crossfire Guards. So let's start strong with the Deadbolt Walkers. These guys are, in my opinion, really the highlight of this particular little box. They are more or less an upgraded version of the Deadeye Walkers that were introduced in Black Plague, and so they're a Walker class zombie that can attack at range. And their range is 0 to 3, so it's a pretty big range, but these guys are a little bit upgraded mostly because they can hit for 2 damage every attack, and no armor rolls are allowed. So pretty on theme for a crossbow. You know, they're there to pierce armor and really, pack a lot of punch. With that amount of damage at their fingertips, basically at all times, they are quite dangerous on the board. And like I said, with that range of 0 to 3, it really makes you have to consider where your survivors are at the end of the round, because essentially if you're in line of sight, you're gonna get smoked. I don't think that there is a zombie card for the Deadbolt Walkers that has less than 2 at blue that spawn. And so if you get caught out even at blue against these guys, they're gonna hit you for 4 points of damage and that's it. Additionally, they have line of sight up onto your battlement. And so here in White Death, they're kind of evening the odds to some degree with survivors that are just out of reach for a lot of zombies who have to wait for a siege card before they can go up on the battlement and start attacking your guards or your survivors up there. Well, these guys, as long as they're within line of sight and they're in their range, 0 to 3, they are ready to fire on the folks that are looking down on them from the battlements. So you're kind of playing a little bit of a safety dance. You know, you're moving from this spot to this spot, trying to make sure that you're making enough noise to, bring them down whatever channel you've designated as like the kill slot, to make sure that once they show up, they're wiped off the board. Otherwise, you're really, kind of putting whoever's within range in high levels of danger. An additional thing that's interesting in a way that they interact with White Death is the new target priority system that has been introduced in White Death puts brutes and abominations at the top of the list, sort of like they're blocking, they're meat shields for the walkers. And so, if they get a set of brutes or an abomination in a space with them, they become extra difficult to deal with because all of a sudden you can't pick them off from range. You've really got to go in there toe-to-toe with a concerted melee attack and make sure that you've got enough firepower to wipe the group out. Or you can just do the Dragon Bile Torch thing, that'll take care of them as well. Honestly, they remind me a lot of abominations from Black Plague and Green Horde. I can't stress enough just like how the change of abominations in White Death not hitting for 3 sort of changed the way that you deal with threats on the board, and this introduces some of that back in and is a fantastic sort of nod to previous editions of Zombicide. But also for me, somebody that's been playing this game for years, it takes me back to some of the stuff that I originally really liked about Zombicide. You might not have a way to deal with these guys on the board, and so you're forced into dealing with, kiting them or having to come up with sort of clever strategies to get them within range to then wipe them out in a single turn. Additionally, the Deadbolt Walkers are completely backwards compatible. You can introduce them into any of your favorite Black Plague or Green Horde scenarios, or obviously anything that you homebrew as well. So the Deadbolt Walkers are fantastic. They are high octane, high danger, and absolutely are a force to be reckoned with when they're on the table. The Deadbolt Walkers are not the only thing that are present here in this expansion. You've also got the Crossfire Guards. All right, so what are the Crossfire Guards in the first place? They are ranged guards, sort of similar to normal guards that come in the White Death core set, but these guys have no melee attack available to them at all. They can make a ranged attack at range of 1 to 3 that does 1 damage. You can sort of mix and match your guard setup however you want. So, if you're looking at a scenario in a scenario book, at the back of one of the manuals and it says put X amount of guards in this space, you could put all ranged guards in that space, and then you could put normal guards in another space. So you can mix and match your guards, and I would suggest doing that because these guys are super vulnerable to melee attacks, obviously. So while the Crossfire Guards have a significantly enlarged range that they can fire at, they don't actually get a damage buff for, the lack of a melee attack available to them. Some of that power loss and flexibility loss is made up by the addition of these delayed ranged actions that they can take, where on your turn you can say, okay, I'm gonna spend my guard action, which requires an AP to begin with, I'm gonna spend it on a delayed ranged action. And this allows you to spend this card that you essentially purchased with one of your actions during the zombie phase. And it lets you react to the zombie movement on the board with more or less an Overwatch action from XCOM or, Mario vs. Rabbids, if you're familiar with that. And they can sort of take pot shots at the zombies, make actual full-blown attacks that they would otherwise have taken on your turn in the midst of the zombie phase. This is really, in my opinion, extremely useful against runners because runners activate twice. But it's also really useful on extra activation cards that you pull from the zombie deck. The problem is that this is less frequent than it's ever been in White Death, and that's mostly because they changed the rules in White Death about extra zombie activations on when you run out of miniatures for a particular zombie. Now, instead of activating that zombie that you ran out of the miniatures of, you activate your abomination. Now, obviously, this is very easily house ruled back to activating all of the zombies that were of that particular mini that you ran out of. But the place where these delayed ranged actions really sing are when there's a ton of movement on the board in the zombie phase. So it's like mid-game to end game, and only if you're playing Black Plague or Green Horde, because again, the new rule changes prohibit this in White Death. The reason I don't think that this delayed range attack is that great is if you don't use it during the zombie phase, it's poof. You've sacrificed an AP for nothing. You've lost tempo if that occurs. It's also not fun to be like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing, and then nothing on the board occurs for you to actually resolve. And you might be saying, well, Steve, get good, play better. I don't know. Can you not count the spaces and determine where the zombies are gonna be? Well, yeah, of course. If I'm playing solo, I can really, dial in and make sure that I know where the zombies are gonna be during any given zombie phase, particularly before you draw and you're just doing the movement portion. But if you're playing this game casually, beer and pretzels style, as intended, you have to have the beer and pretzels, otherwise it's not considered that. But if you're playing casually with 6 people and everybody's sort of just like doing what they want, and oh, this group of zombies is really close to me, and I know that my friend just took a delayed action, but I don't have anything else to do on my turn. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna mess them up. I'm gonna get a bunch of XP. I'm gonna play the way that I want to because I would like to have fun on the game night that I get once a month or whatever it is. So the more people you add, the more difficult these sort of delayed ranged actions become because you can't forecast what your friend is going to be doing. And that's actually, in my opinion, some of the fun of playing with other folks is seeing how they want to resolve a particular issue on the table. So I don't expect anybody to lean into quarterbacking to make delayed ranged actions work that well. So I think that they're a little bit more of an advanced tool in a game that caters to casual play so well. But also, not everything has to be played with every single time you bring the game to the table. Crossfire Guards, I think, are a tool in a toolkit, like so many things that come from Zombicide expansions. It's a thing that you can use if you want it, and if you're really interested in handcrafting scenarios, these guys give you some very awesome theme, tasty morsels of theme that allow you to sort of tap into, powerful long-range guards up on, the battlements. So overall, I think that this expansion is really quite good, and that's mostly down to the Deadbolt Walkers. I think they're an absolutely fantastic addition. They're, kind of terror-inducing on the board and require you to be really, really careful about where you end your turn. It's fantastic to feel like you've wiped out a group of them, especially a big group. It's sort of like everybody can breathe a breath of relief, and it brings some of that oh God, if I let them attack me, I'm probably gonna die, you know, sort of carefulness back into the game that I feel like we're sorely missing with the new changes to the Abomination that were made in White Death. Like I said when I was specifically talking about the Deadbolt Walkers, I think that they are worth this expansion alone. You could never touch the Crossfire Guards, and you would still get a fantastic addition to the game. Now, the Crossfire Guards themselves, my overall feelings and sort of final attitude about them is they are fun. They're tricky to use. I think they're niche. I don't think that they are good for casual groups. You know, if you are adding this to, you know, somebody's first Zombicide experience, it doesn't seem like it's, you know, player friendly for folks that are not a little bit more advanced as far as understanding how, in particular, the zombie phase works. I think that they shine beautifully in crafted maps and, you know, positioning puzzles or custom scenarios that are designed around making sure that you have that extra range from a guard that's up on a battlement. I think that they reduce flexibility and really are specific to niche cases. This is an absolutely easy recommendation for any Zombicide enthusiast. I think you're gonna love the pressure of the Deadbolt Walkers, and you will definitely find yourself sort of obsessing and thinking over, okay, where can I most efficiently place the Crossfire Guards to get the most bang for my buck and, you know, really put the pinch on the zombies coming down this particular street or whatever. But as far as like being something that, you know, the casual or average player should be interested in getting, this is definitely not an expansion that I would put at the top of your list. So that's it for my review of the Crossfire expansion. If this was helpful to you at all, please give it a like. It really helps more people discover the channel. And if you want more content like this, consider subscribing as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one here at the Shoebill studio. Cheers.